The following program is recorded live and intended for all audiences.
Allen Robinson as the motion man. Trey Burton from the 2. Shotgun. Trubisky on the keeper. Weaves in. He crosses the goal line into the end zone. Touchdown! Touchdown Bears! Trubisky in from the 2 on the opening drive, capping a 10-play journey that started at the Bear 14. Bears lead the Packers 6-0. 3:08 to go. It is third down and goal at the 9. Kaiser back to throw. Pumps. In trouble. Wrapped up.
Oh, he took the
ball away. It is Khalil Mack with the sack and the strip. And welcome to Chicago, big boy. Khalil Mack makes the big play on third down and goal at the 9. And the Packers are turned away. Third down and 19, 50 seconds to go. First half, Bears up 10-zip. 3-man rush. Coming clean, Roy Robinson is. And it is intercepted by Mack. Mack running left to the 20, to the 15, 10, 5, end zone. Touchdown Bears. And the Packers have reignited with Aaron Rodgers just triggering from the pocket. He's got a back to his left. Slot receiver Cobb on the right side. Jimmy Graham on the left. First and 10 from the 12. Back to throw again. Pockets tight. He's not leaving. He throws it left. It is caught. Devontae Adams. Stutter step. Pass to Mukamara. Diving for the goal line. He's in for the touchdown. The Packers are coming back. Cody Parkey comes out. Left hash. Angle right. Flags are moving a little bit. Looks like the wind at his back. 32-yard try on the left hash. Out of the hole to Pat O'Donnell. Patrick Scale to send it back. The snap. The placement is good. Kick by Parkey is up. It is good from 32 yards. His third field goal is hit from 26, 33, and 32. His 9 points, quite valuable here tonight. And a 23-17 lead over the Packers, who need a touchdown to tie. Bears in nickel. Callahan, Fuller, Omukamara. The safeties Amos and Eddie Jackson. Rodgers in the gun. Takes the snap. 4-man rush. They throw it. Almost intercepted right through the breadbasket of Kyle Fuller at the. That would have been it. Bears bring extras. Now they back off. Rodgers standing in the pocket with all day to throw. Works it over the middle. Pass is caught up the seam, and nowhere is a Bear in sight. Cobb running right to the 20, to the 15, to the 10, to the 5 on the cut. He's in the end zone for the touchdown. 75-yard touchdown. Randall Cobb weaving through the Bears defense. About 18 yards away from a Parkey field goal range with 1:06 to go. It's fourth down and 10. Bears have 3 receivers, slot right, high snap. Trubisky waiting. Hit from behind. Ball is out. It's on the ground, and this game is going to be over.
I am going to forego my usual cheers open because I am very, very dejected, upset, emotional. That was a hell of a football game, a hell of a way to lose. So much promise. This game started so promising. It looked like the Bears were on their way to dominating the Green Bay Packers, but instead, the same old happens. Aaron Rodgers pulls his team from the jaws of defeat and leads them to victory. With me is Danny Shimon. We're going to break down the game as much as we can in our emotional state, but we're here for you. We're going to talk this through, and I'll turn it over to Danny now while I wipe some tears away. And why don't you give me your overall thoughts, and then we'll dive in and talk about the details.
Wow, yeah, I mean, what an emotional roller coaster this game was. I mean, you could have stopped those highlights at the end of the first half. I mean, you could look at that. The Bears almost played, if you will, a perfect game. Offensively, they were aggressive with their first 15 plays. Really had the Packers defense on their heels. Not sure who was going where, who was lining up where. And then defensively, Khalil Mack, what an impact he had on that first half with this, strip sack, and then getting the interception and then returning it back for a touchdown. I mean, his impact was instantaneously. As soon as he got on the field, it just gave the other players on defense like a lift, and you could see them all hustling to the ball, rushing the passer. So, and then of course the second half happens, and this is where I have a lot of issues here. First of all, with the coaching staff in terms of the play calling, it just seemed like once they went off their scripted plays, what I call off script plays. They just started look like they're confused. There are times where the play call was in late to Trubisky, had to call timeouts early in that that late in the second half, or I'm sorry, in the first half. It just looked like they were, and then Nagy was getting cute and not running the ball, and in certain situations where probably just handing the ball to Jordan Howard would do the job, and then of course. The Packers then, got their, hero back in Aaron Rodgers, and then they got that emotional lift, and the big play obviously was that the big long touchdown pass to Allison, terrific play all around from Rodgers. I mean, he does a great job of looking off the safety, the single high safety, looks off the safety, because at that point I think Amukamara was out of the game. Cooper had just come in, so the Bears had a single high safety, and he was shading over towards Cooper. And Rodgers drops back, looks at Cooper, looks at that receiver. Of course, the safety bites, runs over there. Now you got one-on-one coverage between Allison and Kyle Fuller. And I mean, Fuller, to his credit, he had really good coverage. And I even tweeted this out. He was in perfect position. Had real tight coverage. It was just a terrific throw by Rodgers and a great catch by Allison. So nothing you could do there. But that's what started the momentum for the Packers. And then next thing you know, they're going no huddle. They're going hurry up. And the Bears pass rushers, I just think they just lost wind. I mean, they got tired. Mack has only been in training camp for a week, practicing with the team for a week. So I think that's where the momentum started shifting towards Green Bay. And, yet again, with all that said, all the offensive futility in the second half, the momentum that Green Bay was getting, if Kyle Fuller makes that interception, the Bears win the game. If that touchdown, now the last play, the touchdown to Cobb, I'm not sure what coverage the Bears were playing. The safety's bit came in onto Cobb, and then next thing you know, there was no one back there. I mean, you're playing mostly prevent defense here. I mean, at this time you're going to have two safeties back, and you do not want to give up a long touchdown. That's the one thing you want to do is do not give up a long touchdown. And there was no one in the middle of the field. So, like I said, just an emotional roller coaster. The first half. The Bears looked like up and coming young team, and the Packers were rattled. In the second half, the Bears looked like a young team with a young quarterback who really, we'll get into this later on, but really concerned me in terms of what I had questions about him coming into the season, and that his pocket presence, his ability to maintain his composure in the pocket, read defenses, and make plays from the pocket. And they just took advantage of that. Took advantage of a young coach and his play calling. And the Packers just, had the best quarterback in the league, arguably, lead them back to a gut-wrenching victory for us Bears fans. So
Matt Nagy is at the podium now. Unfortunately, we're unable to get audio. If we do, we'll go to that. But I think the most disturbing thing for me is Mitch Trubisky's performance and the play calling too, but I always hate to question the play calling because just certain things that we don't know. But certainly there seemed to be certain times where a run play was what should have been ordered, and Nagy had a history with that Kansas City playoff game where he abandoned the run, and at certain times it looked like he abandoned the run in this game. But the headline for me is just Mitch Trubisky's performance. It just was not what was expected of him. In terms of his growth, at this point in his career, he needs to be a little bit more elevated, and perhaps I'm thinking too far ahead. Perhaps this kid, because he's like Mike North is always saying, he's only had 13 college starts. He's only got another 13 or 14 pro starts. Perhaps we're asking too much out of this guy because he's just not processing quickly. He seems confused out there at times, despite all the talk about him knowing this playbook and so forth. He looked like the quarterback. I mean, on the day we drafted him, I ranted about how terrible the draft pick was. And today he looked like that terrible draft pick. You know, Patrick Mahomes threw 4 touchdown passes today. 4 touchdown passes. And Trubisky, you know, I'm just wound up here, man. I just don't like what I saw. I don't like what I saw.
Yeah, you expect a kid who's been with, and again, he's, like you said, you mentioned, you know, the lack of experience in college, you know, only 13 starts and only a handful of starts in the NFL as well. You expect him to have some.
It felt like he was.
Sorry, we got the audio going. Let's see what Nagy's got to say.
I mean, again, it's not really by design as much as sometimes just within the play. You don't always call deep plays and they become deep plays, and you don't always call short plays and you know, or vice versa. So.
Is there any commonality between the last game you're coaching here in terms of playing with a lead, and what did you learn from that game that you can try?
Yeah. So, well, when you have a lead, there's the balance that we just talked about of are you not aggressive enough? Well, you know, again, you were getting good yards running the ball, so that's what we were doing. And I felt like in the third quarter we weren't as efficient on third down, which is what we'll go back and look at. So again, we'll use this. I'll use it myself for our team of trying to help improve us. And I know our guys right now are bummed in the locker room, and that's okay to feel that way. But we'll like again, we're going to grow. Well, because I knew we could do that. I really did. And they proved it. And it was so good for our guys to have that. And, you know, they didn't get a whole lot of reps in the preseason. And so for them to see what can happen, you know, so some of those are scripted, those plays. And so they're able to study them. But they see it's there. They understand that it's there. And that's one of the beautiful parts of our team right now is we are so young. We're young as a staff. We're young as players. And that's no exception. That's no excuse. But when you see it, then it makes you feel good and you know you can improve.
Is learning how to finish off the team when you have a lead like this part of the process?
Yeah, you have to. It doesn't do any good to be close. It really doesn't. And that was the message in there with the guys. We don't feel good that we were close. Trust me, it sucks. But again, we're not going to point – this one thing this team won't do, I promise you, is not going to point fingers that the offense didn't do well, the defense didn't do well, the special team. It won't happen. Not here.
With the type of confidence swings that there were tonight, and maybe with Kyle Fuller specifically, was on the wrong end of a couple of plays, do you have to worry about that? I know a corner has to have a short memory to begin with, but do you have to do anything special to make sure that he's not down after a night like tonight?
No, not especially with Kyle. It's the next play mentality. Do you think Kyle doesn't know that, you know, that catching that ball, what that would do? So we get it. I mean, there was a lot of other plays in that game that could have affected the outcome. And so he'll be hard on himself because of who he is, but I wouldn't want it any other way. All
right, Danny. Sorry to interrupt there. Wanted to get a few words in from the coach, and maybe we'll go back in when Trubisky hits the podium. We got a lot of activity in the chat room. Man, oh man, I'm having a hard time organizing my thoughts here because I'm just so pissed off.
Well, right, and I'm sure the players are pissed off, like Nagy says, and like I kind of after the game I was, you know, I'm like, wow, this is a really, you know, terrible loss. But then this is where, you know, like he was saying, this is a young team, right? This is where we're gonna see what kind of coach Nagy is. Can he rally these guys to come back out and say, hey guys, right, you know, you dominated the Packers, the team that a lot of people are picking to win this division. A lot of people are picking to go to the Super Bowl possibly. I mean, you dominated them for the first half. Even with Aaron Rodgers was in there for that first quarter, you know, the defense had him rattled, it looked like, right? I mean, he didn't know where Khalil Mack was coming from. He didn't know where Lon Flair was coming from. And then all of a sudden, you know, he gets sacked, he gets out of the game. And even worse now, the Packers look like they're, you know, for worse shape here. But, you know, like you said, you know, they're not going to just live off of that. So what you do is you build off of it. All right, so you had them down, you know, you had them pinned in the first half, and then second half, what happened? You know, where did it go wrong? You know, so that's where you're going to build from there. And this is really gonna you know, show what kind of coach Nagy and, you know, and this coaching staff, you know, how they're going to respond to this and bring this team, get them ready for next week's game against Seattle, you know, Monday night. So another national televised game. you don't want to come out flat, or you don't want to, have a, similar performance there, especially in front of the home crowd as well. So, again, going back to my biggest concerns right now, that after those first 15 plays that were scripted, I mean, the Bears offense looked like they were in a flow. They had everything going. They had the Packers defense off balance. And then after that, it just looked like the wheels fell off the bus. I mean, that's when we saw Trubisky missing, wide open, players, and like he missed Trey Burton on a wide open in the end zone. He threw the ball away, and ended up being a field goal for Parkey. So, and then there's another time on a third down conversion. Tariq Cohen was wide open as well, but what he ended up doing is he's getting back there, and then it looks like he's nervous, and he's putting his eyes down, and he's just tucking the ball and running instead of going through his progressions and waiting and looking to see if someone comes open. It's not like he was being heavily pressured or had pressure in his face all the time. He had some time there to sit back and go through his progressions and find the open receiver. And there's times he just missed open guys where he could have got a big first down conversion, kept the offense on the field, kept the defense off the field, and then that way, instead of flipping the ball back to Green Bay, now you got deep pass rushers who are just exhausted, and all the Packers are doing and just quick hitting, no huddle, getting the ball quickly out of Rodgers' hands and into the hands of the playmaker. So his pocket presence really bothered me today. Again, limited experience, big game, opening night on the road. But just, I expected him to be have more composure. Now, you definitely saw when he got out of the pocket. When he rolls out of the pocket, I like his ability. I like his athletic split speed to be able to get away from a pass rusher, and also he looks down the field to find an open receiver. But it's when he's in the pocket. Even his accuracy on the run outside the pocket is I think much better than his accuracy when he's in the pocket. So this is where he's going to have to get better, is just continue work on his footwork, continue work towards progression, and just continue to develop from the pocket. So this is where Nagy and his coaching staff are going to have the work cut off for them.
Steven Zimmerman in the chat room says no reason they should have lost tonight. If they're any worse than 3-1 going into the bye, I got to say this season is going to be a disappointment. No reason they should lose to any of these teams that are coming up. Brian Quinn, B. Diddy says, yeah, Mitch looked really bad in the second half. Ryan D'Onofrio, not having Howard out there for half of the game proves that he had 16 carries and we were up 20-0. Johnny Luna has a word of hope. He says, I'm brokenhearted by the loss. But, hey, guys, how much closer was this game than in the past? I love where we are at. We are building, and the Packers are just had a great game. Nothing more than that. Our future is bright. Yeah, that's a half glass full approach, Mr. Luna. But man, oh man, it should not happen. Aaron Rodgers is playing on one effing leg. He's playing on one leg.
Right, but Aaron Rodgers is also great. So, I mean, the great players do things like that. And that's to be expected. When he went down and he came back, you just knew that the Packers were going to, get a jolt of energy because he's back in the game. And I think kudos to Mike McCarthy and his play calling, because he just then said, all right, these guys are rushing. Rodgers cannot run away from anybody. So I'm going to just go quick count. I'm going to, get the ball quickly out of his hands and get these guys tired, because eventually these pass rushers are going to get tired. If we just methodically move the ball down the field, getting the ball quickly into our receivers' hands, these guys are going to be able to get tired, and then Aaron will have more time to be able to, break down defense and so on and so forth. So I think kudos to Mike McCarthy and the way he adjusted to what the Bears were doing to them, especially when Aaron Rodgers came back. So this is where you see, hey, a rookie coach in his first NFL game and a seasoned coach who has won a Super Bowl and who has those chops to be able to do, all right, let's make an adjustment on the fly as to what they were going to do in terms of how they were going to adjust to the Bears pass rush and how they were going to attack in the second half. So.
Loss _McFly _23. You got to help me with that moniker there, Loss McFly. He says, I hope everyone understands that the Bears lost this game. The Packers did not win this game. The Bears are going to be okay. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I agree with him that this game was a game that the Bears lost, and they lost it because of their youth, of the inexperience at coaching and so forth. And, and so perhaps, I need to take a more macro look at this team and say, yeah, there were some good things that they can build on and so forth. But the disappointment just comes from this just seems to happen all the time, in Chicago, that the Bears have a lead and Aaron Rodgers comes back. I mean, we've seen it. We know the story. And so that's why this is super disappointing to have experienced this. All right, let's go. Let's look at this game in a more micro level. The very first series, the Bears elected to kick, and the Packers did nothing at all. In that first series, it became pretty obvious what the Bears were going to do from a pass rushing standpoint, with Aaron Rodgers at that point being mobile, and that they were going to bull rush and try to keep him in the pocket. NBC had isolated looks at Khalil Mack, and we saw him bull rushing, and so they got the Packers out of there fairly quickly, and then the Bears came back on a 10-play, 86-yard drive that was highlighted by a deep pass from Trubisky to Gabriel that went for 31 yards, and then Trubisky ran it in for the touchdown. What were your thoughts after those first two series?
Yeah, I mean, instantaneously, like you said, you saw what the Bears were going to do. They were going to try and do their hardest to maintain their rush lanes from the outside and inside, in between the offensive line and defensive line to get into Aaron Rodgers' face. So that way they're going to maintain him and keep him in the pocket, because he's dangerous when he gets outside the pocket, and that's when he throws off platform, and that's when he plays break down, and next thing you know, he's scrambling, he's buying time, and receivers are getting wide open downfield. So that was their game plan, and I think they executed it perfectly. I mean, in terms of getting up there in his face, making him uncomfortable, and then offensively, they came out and they showed us stuff that we hadn't seen before from a Bears offense. So everything, like I said, was flowing smoothly in that first quarter for pretty much most of the first half, but. It's when, and then especially defensively, going back to them, Khalil Mack's effect, when he came into the game, right away, his first pass rush, he bull rushed Brian Bulaga right into Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Rodgers got the ball off, but still, he knew right there, hey, Mack's here, and now I'm going to have to pay attention to him every time he comes, rushes off the edge. So I think that right there made a huge impact on Rodgers and the Packers as well. So yeah, I mean, everything went smoothly, and then of course, halftime happened, so that's when everything turned around.
Don't jump ahead. What about Charles Leno lining up as a wide receiver in trips formation in that first series? That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was something out of the box thinking there. I thought for sure they were going to do a quick smoke screen out to I believe Gabriel was lined up either behind him or next to him, and then Leno was just going to block. But that set up the run, the RPO where Trubisky kept the ball, and then he ran it up for 2 yards and for a touchdown. So. They ran it again the second time around. I think that next time it was Howard had the run, I believe it was, out of that same formation. But after that, we didn't see that formation the rest of the game. So it was innovative, it was creative, and it's all the stuff that Nagy does. But I like to call that stuff sometimes razzle dazzle. It's like it only lasts for so long. You can only do those kind of things for so long. It was. I think it was like in the third quarter. Every time a receiver was kind of lined off the line, you could tell Trubisky was going to get it in his hands real quick. And whether it was Cohen or whether it was Taylor Gabriel, they were going to get in their hands and see if they can create anything. And the Packers just caught on that, and they just started jumping those routes as soon as the ball was snapped it basically to Trubisky, and then he was racing it to the outside. So there's certain things you can do against defenses that eventually they're going to catch up to you, and that's what Mike Patton did. He caught up, and that's where then Nagy needed to come back and adjust. And I think pounding the ball down their throat would have been a nice way to respond to that, because now you saw the Packers were kind of initially you saw the Packers were when the Bears started off they running the ball, the Packers linebackers were kind of getting sucked in, and that opened up the middle of the field for Trubisky to get Burton in the middle of the ball. And then they started going outside, and and then the Packers corner started jumping those routes as well. So
let's go to Mitch at the podium right now.
Pick up a few completions, and we're just running the ball, picking up first downs, and don't fall into many third downs to allow them to get in their pressure package. Then we're in attack mode, and it feels like we're in control. So the more you can do that, the more success you have. And then when we finish down the red zone, that's when we'll get to where we want to be, which is an elite offense. But until then, we got a lot of work to do, and we just got to continue to convert and find ways to finish in the red zone.
Mitch mentioned some of the struggles on third and short. Did you see any trend, maybe what Green Bay was doing, some of the challenges they saw there?
Yeah, we expected a lot of man on third and short, and they came out and played a bunch of zones. So credit to them for just mixing it up. A lot of our calls were built for man, and we had some risky calls that we just went with, and we believed them, and they just made plays, and we didn't. So just got to go back to the film, continue to learn, and like I said, it's tough when we don't have unscattered looks. We don't know what they're going to bring, and you just got to trust the play, and hopefully our execution beats theirs. But credit to them for coming up with those stops, and we just got to be better because those are big plays for the offense.
Even though the result wasn't what you guys wanted, can you appreciate what everybody was able to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you realize how tough this game is, and I don't even know what type of injury he had, but he came back into the game and seemed like he was just wobbling around, throwing on one leg and able to find completions. And, I mean, that's what it is for the quarterback completion. Just get the ball to your playmakers and give your guys a chance. So that's something he did really well and something I got to do better. Just get the ball into your guys' hands and let them go to work with it. And yeah, it sucks being on this side of it and them being on the good side of it. But I feel like we're a lot closer, and just got to continue to get better.
On the third and short, when he went back to Sims, what did you see on that play?
Yeah, it's just a built-in play, and that's pretty much my only option. So, like I said, it's built for man. They're playing zone, and that's just one of those risks that you take. And if we get the right look, then it's wide open. We look like geniuses, but they just made a play. So you're just hoping to get 1 yard, and came up short. And, yeah, just trying to do my job, and it didn't work out.
What kind of statement do you think Bears offense made tonight?
I don't even know if we made a statement. We're close. We know how close we are. These guys continue to believe, continue to work their tails off. Credit to the offensive line for giving me time and receivers making plays. We just feel like we're real close. You get down in the red zone and you come up with a bunch of field goals, and it feels okay because you're like, we got some points, we're taking care of the football, but they're not touchdowns. That's when you can really separate and help out the defense, continue to take pressure off them when we're scoring. So I don't know if we made a statement. We moved the ball up and down the field, but there's that sense and feeling in the locker room, especially on the offensive side, that we should need to continue to dig deeper and get over that hump of just putting up 20, 23 or however many points, getting to the 30s, getting to touchdowns, convert in the red zone, convert on third down, and really dictate the game instead of giving them a chance at the end, which we did. So I feel like it really falls on me and the offense. And then when you could do that, you just control the ball and you could dictate the game instead of letting them back in. But again, credit to their offense, their defense, and we just gotta continue to pull together, which we will. And we're headed in the right direction, so we're close. But I don't know if there's any statement.
All right, so let's. I don't think we're going to get anything more than Mitch.
Well, something there he said that was interesting on that third down play to Deion Sims, where he was, it was 3rd and 1, and he was stuck for a loss, I believe it was. He said that they're expecting zone, and they came out playing man. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you tell me you don't have an audible to call at that play? Say, hey, all right, we got this play called, and so it's going to really need Deion Sims to break, beat his man one-on-one to get this first down. I know it was only 1 yard, but don't you? I mean, you have zone busters and Trey Burton and Taylor Gabriel and Anthony Miller. I mean, these guys can easily find the openings in the zone and sit down and get a pass, thrown to them to convert a first down, or even, may possibly even run the ball. But I'm just curious that he said it was his only option on that play. He knew that they were playing man, but that play was designed for zone. So at that point, don't you, audible or get out of that play or do something?
That's a great point.
That's my question.
I thought the same thing when I heard him say that. Shane Marsaw in Twitter world has an interesting comment. He's upset, of course, and he says, be obsessed. How about just be smart? That would help. Last 2 games, Matt Nagy has been the play caller and have been unimpressive with the talent at his disposal. Mitch isn't going to get better until he settles down and can process things. He's stuck in FF right now. I'm assuming that's fantasy football, perhaps. But I agree with Shane in that I think that the play calling could have been a little smarter. So,
yep. And I mean, Trey Burton only had 1 catch of 15 yards. I mean, this is a guy who's been billed as their tight end, their move tight end. The guy's going to play the quote unquote Travis, Kelsey role in his offense, and he had 1 catch of 15 yards. You mean tell me that the Packers were doing such a great job of covering him in man that he couldn't get open and find him? So I don't know. It just. Like I said, it was weird that once they got off their first 15 scripted plays, it just looked like the Bears were offensively just lost out there. So, calling, the play clocks were running down on them, that they call early timeouts. I think they used all 3 of their timeouts in the first half with like 6 minutes left in the half. So, just looked discombobulated, and really, I think even though the Packers weren't on the board and they had their own issues with Aaron Rodgers being out, I think that just gave them hope. Hey guys, we're only 2 scores down, we're only 3 scores down at the half. So I think if the Bears had, I said the Bears have to continue being aggressive. They have to continue pedal to the metal, keep pushing, keep pressing these Packers, because you have them rattled in the first quarter. But I think even though they threw the ball more than they actually ran the ball, I think they weren't progressive and they weren't aggressive plays on the field. You have Allen Robinson, you have like I said, Trey Burton, Anthony Miller. Yeah, the play calling just got really weird after that first quarter. After those first 15 plays the scripted plays were done, and that's where. And I'm just like you, although I don't want to second guess. As far as play calling, but some of that stuff, and then that 3rd and 1. Jordan Howard's been running the ball pretty well in that 4th quarter, and you decide to throw the ball and stop the clock, and that's another area where I was pretty upset in terms of the play calling. So. Just some weird stuff that I can't really explain what was going on.
In the Packers' second series, on the very first play of 1st and 10 at the Green Bay 25, Akeem Hicks with excellent pressure forces a fumble, and the ball is right there within reach. Yeah. He's got it in his hands. It would have been a great play, turning the ball over, but at the Bears getting the ball at the 20-yard line of Green Bay territory, but he just didn't corral it. And then it looks like the Packers were going to march downfield. They had a 48-yard completion. Fortunately, it was called back, and at that point it looked like the Packers were holding on every single play. I mean, every time there was a pass, I detected some type of a holding, at least in 75% of the plays, and the officials let the Packers get away with most of them, although in this second series there was that penalty call that negated that long pass play.
The guards it looked like every time Hicks was being held, every time by McCrary, the guards, it just looked like it doesn't matter if it's a pass rush, Hicks was being held. They call a couple of them, but even Leonard Floyd, there were a couple of times where the left tackle actually literally put his arms around his waist and kind of held him there. So I was like, this is not holding. Some of those calls also were the non-made calls were also kind of eye-opening there.
Yep. So the Bears get the ball back for their second series, and the key play on that series was a beautiful pass by Trubisky deep down the right sideline to Allen Robinson, who made a great catch for 33 yards. And the drive stalls, and the Bears end up getting a field goal, 10-0. It was nice to see Allen Robinson show what he can do. Would have loved to have seen him do more, but that 33-yard play perhaps is a promise that he's going to be doing a lot more of that this season for the Bears.
And that was the drive I was talking about earlier, where on second and goal, I believe it was, Allen Robinson beat press coverage at the goal line, and he was wide open in the end zone, and Trubisky just sailed the ball over his head into the corner. And I believe on third down was where he threw the ball away, but Trey Burton was wide open in the middle of the end zone. So 2 opportunities there that instead of a field goal and 10-0 lead, you could have been up by 2 scores at 14-0. So another huge momentum play there. Yeah, you got points, but man, a touchdown there would have really been a big punch to the Packers' gut there. But again, two wide open guys. He missed them, overthrew them. So, get back to our.
That's what you can't blame that on play calling. That was just Trubisky not being at his best. And then the Packers get the ball back, 3 plays, 4 yards. They punt. The Bears then, unfortunately, that's when they start to just lose momentum. And there was a 3rd and 1 play. Jordan Howard was called for a play up the middle. And I like the play calling there. You got to give it to your power back, but this was a case where Kenny Clark just beat Cody Whitehair on that run play, on that 3rd and 1 play. And Cody just, I know Draft Dr. Phil loves this guy, but I don't know, man. He's not bringing it on every play. There was a bad snap in this game. There was a couple of run blocks where he didn't do his best. We got to call it the way we see it, and in that particular play, Cody Whitehair just did not do a good job blocking on Kenny Clark, and therefore the Bears were forced to punt.
Right, and then so I think I agree with you on Whitehair to a certain extent. I mean, I think he had a decent game overall. There was that bad snap that I thought was going to go over Trubisky's head, but I think in terms of pass blocking and run blocking, I think he had an okay game. There was another, I think this was right after, I believe it's right after Rodgers got hurt, where the Packers punted. The Bears had a 42-yard return by Cohen, and they had the ball at the Green Bay 43, and then the first play, there's a holding call on Kyle Long, who, by the way, had a pretty darn good game as well. So that set them back, so that kind of put them back as well. So, yeah, the little miscues here and there, the holding, the bad snaps, stuff like that. That can set back drives. It might be 5 yards here, 4 yards here, whatever the result is. But that can always put you back, and you're not pushing the chains. You're taking them back. So that really started to happen, like I was saying earlier, once they got off their 15 scripted plays. Stuff like that. Just I don't know if these haven't been practiced. Now I'm assuming they've practiced all these plays, but I really can't explain why it just kind of they weren't as sharp and as crisp after those the first quarter, let's say.
Yep. Big point in the game now. The Bears defense goes out there. They sack Aaron Rodgers. He's hurt. The Packers punt, and Tariq Cohen has a 42-yard return. This, with the Bears leading 10-0, this is an opportunity here for the Bears to squash the Packers like a bug. But instead, they just are unable to do anything with the ball. And that was the play where Sims had this perfectly, well, I would say, it was a pretty well-thrown ball by Trubisky, and it just goes right through his hands on that. Right. I think it was a 3rd down and 13, so that was just super disappointing. That's
the one I was talking about. That's the one, the first play, Kyle Long was called for holding, and it kind of took everything back. So, I think it was 3rd and 12, 3rd and 13, and it looked like he had the outside angle, Sims did, and he could have, if he just kept running outside, he might have been able to dive for the first down marker, but for some reason, just cut it up inside into the defender, and that was tackled down, I think 2 or 3 yards short of the marker. So that was disappointing as well. I think that Shane and I pointed that out as soon as it happened on Twitter as well. But stuff like that, just off, not in sync, just doing weird things like that, really set them back, offensively.
And so at this point, I start wondering, did Matt Nagy not playing the starters in that 3rd week of preseason, did that start to impact this offense? Because again, they come back out and it's they punt. What do you think there? Do you think that those missed reps against actual competition in that preseason game may have cost the Bears offense some sharpness?
But they had great practices, Aldo. That's what we were told. I mean, they had some, phenomenal practices. I mean, I'm joking, obviously, but you know how I feel about the 3rd preseason game. I mean, the more reps these guys got, the better a cohesive unit they would become. So, I thought of it, to be honest with you. I'm like, all right, this is a point where you could have probably, ran some of these plays and tried these plays against live action. Maybe your players would have been better suited to handle them in a game, but again, we were told, hey, they have great practices, that these guys are ready to go, so on and so forth. So, he's the coach, and what are we gonna say? But I do think that the lack of reps during the preseason, I think that matters, especially in these first couple of weeks, especially when you're installing a new offense with new players. Like going way back into the offseason, I said, the Bears are going to rely in these first 3-4 weeks, are going to heavily rely on their defense to help them win these games. Offensively, they're not going to be as sharp and as cohesive as I expect them to be in week, 10, 11, 12, 13, so on and so forth. Towards the end of this season, you should see this team be a more effective, efficient offensive unit. Right now they needed their defense to help win it, and they were doing that in the first half. But unfortunately, but they have to be confident. They have to be able to keep that defense off the field and keep turning first downs. And unfortunately, they weren't able to do that.
Steven Zimmerman says it the way I'm feeling. This is a really tough loss to swallow. Of course, it had to be against the effing Packers. Oh, well, I guess on to Seattle. All right, but we do have to talk about Khalil Mack, because in that first half, he put on a performance for the ages. And in that first half is when he got his interception for a touchdown. I think he had a sack, a fumble recovery. I missed the stat that they had up on the screen, NBC, but it had something like he was the first player in the Bazumba years where he did all of these things. He looked fabulous out there, and it was just and unfortunately he started to run out of gas. Right. In that second half. I
was gonna say he looks fabulous with only a week worth of practice.
Yes.
Imagine if this guy had a full training camp, a full off-season program, what kind of havoc he'd wreck. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it was literally the first half was the Khalil Mack half, the second half was the Aaron Rodgers half. Yeah. That's how it went. It seemed like, and he was the instant impact that he made on the field. When I said his first pass rush, he didn't get a sack, he might have got a hurry, but he literally just bowled Brian Bulaga, who's no slouch of an offensive lineman, right back into Aaron Rodgers. And that kind of set Rodgers, all right, here we go. Mack's in the game. I got to be cognizant of where this guy is at all times. Unfortunately, he got no help from the opposite side in terms of Leonard Floyd. But my God, the instant impact he made, the strap sack he had, the strip sack he had of Deshaun Kaiser, that was a phenomenal play right there. And then, of course, the interception, and then he's got some running back moves there. His ability to avoid tacklers and get into the end zone was phenomenal. At that point, you just thought, all right, this is the Bears' day, Bears game. Rodgers is out. Mack is just having putting on a Mack attack, and this game is pretty much over. But of course, we know how it ended.
So, answer me this, Danny, and I know we have to go back and look at the tape and study it and see who was on the field and see who was doing technique right and so forth. But how in the hell can we allow Aaron Rodgers, who is immobile, we know he can't escape the pocket. How in the second half, when he comes back, do we allow him to kill us with 3 touchdown passes? How does that happen? Is it a case of the guys being tired? Is it a case? I don't know. You got to help me understand this.
Well, like I said, we have to go back and take a look at in terms of the defensive coverage breakdowns in the backfield, or a defensive backfield. But in terms of up front, like we said earlier, Mike McCarthy made the adjustment and said, all right, this guy can't get out of the pocket. This guy's pretty much a stationary quarterback. I got to get the ball out of his hands quickly. So they went up tempo. They got the Bears on their heels a little bit. So as soon as the ball was snapped, 1, 2, 3, ball was out of his hands, into his hands of his receivers, and they're allowed to make plays downfield. So, and he's such a great quarterback in terms of throwing his receivers open with pinpoint accuracy. So he would throw to a spot and get the receiver open, like I said, within three drops, 3 seconds, you say. And the pass rush, of course, now they're coming full bore and they're not getting there. You keep going, and they go no huddle, so that they don't have an opportunity to kind of slow down and huddle up or anything like that. And like you said, they ran out of gas, and Mack's coming off of only 1 week of training camp, so he's not in football shape, if you will. And the other guys, Leonard Floyd really was ineffective today. I know he's playing with a broken hand, and had a club on his hand, but he had no his ability. He was unable to get the blockers off of him. Again, he only has one hand, but he was ineffective. Akeem Hicks, was a man possessed in that first half. And I don't know, there's some stuff on Twitter. Maybe he got hurt, or maybe he was playing, not 100% in the second half. But he slowed down. Where Robertson Harrison had a pretty good rush. Actually, I think he was the guy who sacked Aaron Rodgers when he got hurt. So he became ineffective in the second half. And and then you saw Vic Fangio started doing things that he didn't want to do, which is blitz. He started blitzing the line, started blitzing Trevathan, he started blitzing Roquan Smith when he came in there. And then Roquan Smith is another guy I want to talk about later on. I'm sure we'll get to him later on.
No, let's talk about it.
He needs to be starting next week.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm seeing Nick Kwiatkowski, and it's not his fault. The man just doesn't have the foot speed to keep up with these fast, tight ends or H-backs or receivers that are running these crossers in the middle of the field. I mean, he is literally just busting his ass trying to play catch up. And the receiver's got the ball and he's running, catches the ball, and he's up the field for another 5, 10 yards. So Roquan Smith, you noticed when he came in, the first play I believe it was, he was in when Trevathan got hurt.
Yes.
And you saw a delayed blitz. He came in with his closing speed, tremendous closing speed, and he went in and got the sack. So this kid needs to be if he's healthy, he needs to be starting next week in Seattle.
I totally agree. I like Nick Kwiatkowski, but let's face it, he's a backup linebacker.
He's limited. He's limited.
Exactly. He's limited, and he's good at special teams. We need Roquan Smith out there, and that's part of the silver lining that we can take away from this game is that this team was not at full strength. They've got this great defense, but Roquan Smith and Khalil Mack, basically, are still not in condition. They are still nowhere near their prime. Well, maybe Khalil Mack is a lot closer to his prime than Roquan Smith. But this team should get better. My number one concern is Mitch Trubisky. I'm starting to have some doubts about him, especially after Patrick Mahomes, the guy that, remember, you made fun of me a week ago when I said Mahomes was my top-rated quarterback coming out of that draft. Mahomes had 4 touchdown passes today, and Trubisky was missing receivers who were open in the end zone. So that's where the doubt is seeping in, and I hate to doubt my man Trubisky, but hey, I'm just laying it out here, Doctor. Dr. Phil, Dr. Danny, Dr. Anybody, please help me. I'm about ready to commit suicide.
Well, I mean, just come off the edge, right? It's not that bad, like you said. The Bears. I mean, the Bears should have won this game, right? We all agree the Bears, had this team beat. They should have won this game. Which is, how many often do we say the Bears should have won the game in Green Bay? Usually, they're getting led by 50 points. But the fact that they were in this game, they had, they should have won it. They had an opportunity at the end to even, drive and get a game-winning field goal. It's encouraging. Now, I think one of the reporters asked Nagy in the press conference, they have to learn how to close. They have to learn how to finish. I'm not worried about this defense. There's some of the defensive coverage stuff that needs to be fixed, and I think Fangio will fix that. But once this defense gets in full, once Roquan Smith and Khalil Mack are in football shape, I expect this defense to start dominating teams. The only thing that's going to stop this defense at home is the Bears' Soldier Field side, because they're going to be flying around the field. So I'm not worried defensively. Yes, you got to clean up the back end, some of those coverage mishaps, but defensively, I'm not worried. I do share your concern about Trubisky, right? But am I willing to say he's a bum, he's a bust? Not yet. No, I mean, he's shown me a lot today in terms of his physical ability. I always knew he was good, and when he was athletic, he was able to get out and on the edge and run. But his accuracy is really, really, really good when he's out on the run. Getting outside the pocket. My main concern with him, and this was something that I stressed in the offseason as well, is his ability to read defenses and process go through his progression in the pocket. He's got to be able to win in the pocket. So this is where Nagy's going to have to come in. This is where he's going to have to work on him and develop him. But once he gets comfortable in the pocket, once he stops, just looking at one or two guys and then tucking the ball and running, what he was doing in the second half, which, I'm like, guy, if he had waited a second longer on a third down play, he would have seen Cohen come across. He sat right in the middle of his zone, wide open. He could have thrown a ball, a 5-yard completion would have been a first down. Instead, He tucks the ball, he gets taken down behind the line of scrimmage, and the Bears punt the ball. So again, his progression within the pocket is what I'm looking for him to improve on. And then of course, and then that eventually will lead to other players getting better. But another concern I had is, we raved about all these offensive weapons he has now. Trey Burton only 1 catch for 15 yards. Anthony Miller only 2 catches for 14 yards. I mean, really? I know Allen Robinson had that big catch, but he only ended up with 4 receptions for 61 yards. So take advantage of your weapons. But let's get this going here. But I do share your concern about Trubisky in terms of his pocket awareness, his ability within the pocket. But I'm not willing to call him a bust. And Mahomes looked good today. But two of those touchdowns were tossed. The receiver came running in motion. He kind of tossed it in front of him. And the guy ran it around into the end zone. They called it a touchdown. So really, he only had 2 touchdown passes, if you really want to look at it that way. So
yeah, Paulie in the chat room just basically told me the same thing. So here's the thing about Trubisky too, is that at the half, I think I posted on Twitter that he had, I think it was 136 to 140 yards passing. He ends up the game with 171. So that means in the second half, he only had 30 yards passing.
Right.
Oh my
right.
gosh.
Exactly. And that's a concern. That's a concern not only, for the quarterback that's developing, right, and also a concern for the play caller. You got to say, all right, what's not working? You got to be able to make adjustments on the fly. Shane, made a good point. The 2 games that really have counted for the last 2 games that really have counted, air quotes here for head coach Matt Nagy, was with the Chiefs when he had the big lead and they blew it, that playoff game. And I'm not counting the Buffalo game, the preseason game, but that too, they had a big lead, and next thing you know, they blew that game as well. And this one here, there's a fine point with being aggressive and also being smart, right? So you don't want him to be, to sit on the ball and just, pound the ball and give the Howard and go up in 8-9 man boxes and just get, a 1 or 2 yards and punt it every 3 downs. No, but you also want him to be able to attack, go the intermediate route. They're playing zone. You have zone busters. Why is Trubisky telling me that on a critical third down play, he's seeing that they're in man coverage and the play is set up for zone, and the only option is Deion Sims on that play. I want him to be able to either call a timeout, know it's a bad play, or call a different play. Call an audible. I don't understand why he couldn't do that. Is it just you don't trust your quarterback? Is it is he still young? He's still developing. If that's the case, then you have to have other features in his offense that allow him to get out of bad plays. If he recognizes, a coverage and a play that you're in that's not going to work, he's got to get out of it, plain and simple. So the development of Trubisky is going to be key, especially from the pocket going on, into the rest of the season. So defensively, I'm not going to be worried about this team. I think we saw today once Roquan Smith and Khalil Mack got on the field, I mean, the team speed on defense is tremendous, and I think another guy who will go unnoticed because they lost was, I think, Bryce Callahan had a pretty solid game in terms of run support. Eddie Jackson, and Adrian Amos made some nice plays. Now again, on that touchdown pass to Cobb, I have no idea what the safeties were doing, but again, I have trust in Fangio. He's going to fix that part of it. So defensively, I'm not worried, to be honest with you. Offensively, let's keep an eye on Trubisky and his growth, and let's keep an eye on Matt Nagy and his play calling going forward.
You mentioned Bryce Callahan on run support, and yeah, he did look good there, but there were 2 or 3 plays where on pass defense he got burned. I mean,
well, the one time he mistimed his jump, he was right there, and he leaped, and then the ball went right over his fingertips and into, I think it was Cobb as well, or it might have been Devontae Adams, but they converted into a big first down. But I mean, he didn't do anything that got you beat, in terms of his coverage. But yeah, there were times that he was a step slow or mistimed his jump. But I think as long as he stays healthy, I think he's a pretty good cover slot cornerback.
Getting back to Trubisky, I think that tomorrow morning when they sit down as a team and in the quarterback room, Trubisky looks at the game tape with his coaches. This could be one of the most important days of the year for him. He is finally going to have 4 quarters, some 75 snaps of game tape of his performance against a real NFL defense under this Matt Nagy offense. And he needs to see what he did wrong, see what he did right, see what the other players did, and then he needs to correct those mistakes and come out next Monday night against the Seattle Seahawks and execute. He's got to hit on 2 or 3 touchdown passes. He cannot miss open receivers downfield. He cannot, to your point, take his eyes off downfield and tuck the ball and run. He cannot let us down. I feel almost bad that I'm trying to expedite his development as a quarterback, but geez, I feel like maybe we need to demand improvement much faster than we used to of quarterbacks, young quarterbacks. And yesteryear, where a guy like Aaron Rodgers sat on the bench for 2 years and stuff. So I don't know, but I think that tomorrow is a key day for him.
Yeah, I mean, not only that. I mean, eventually you're going to get tired of hearing, he's lack of experience. Screw it, you're going to have to deliver. And his teammates are looking at him. His teammates want to see how he bounces back, right? Because he's taken over a pretty good a command in terms of leadership on his team, and his teammates want to see how he bounces back. Does he stay shell shocked in times of where the game is on the line and he has to drive the team down the field, or does he improve? Does he get better? There was one point. I'll ask you this question, Aldo. There was one point in the third quarter when the offense was struggling, and I thought to myself, would the Bears be better off? And again, this is just like hypothetical speaking here. Would the Bears be better off with Chase Daniels in the game at this point instead of Trubisky? Because he'd go through his progression. He knows the offense, and this moment isn't too big for him. And yeah, he's a backup, but he's a veteran backup that has showed us that he's got some guts, some moxie in there. So again, just hypothetically speaking, but would the Bears have been better with Chase Daniels in that third quarter managing that offense as opposed to Trubisky? Is something I thought of, but again, just hypothetically speaking. So just to show you how important it is to have that command, that poise of the offense. Your teammates are looking at you. They're relying on you to make the right play, the right read, the right call. Is he handcuffed? Is he handcuffed in his offense? Can he not call audibles? I saw a couple of times. He went up there and he said kill. So maybe he had a play called and he had a second play called in the huddle, and he killed the first one and went to the second one. So on that quote where he said on a DM Sims play on a 3rd and 1, that he saw that they were in man, he thought expected zone, but yet he still went with the play, and that was his only option. That kind of caught my attention there, and that's a little bit concerning for me, at least.
I asked people in the chat room whether I should punch you for bringing up that hypothetical about having Chase Daniel in, or do you have a point?
I'm not asking for Chase Daniels, but I'm just thinking, I know. What a quarterback who knows his offense, who goes through progression, would that person help us win this game?
I get it, but nonetheless, here are some of the responses. People are saying that, yes, you have a point. That was AA Ron from Chicago, one of the stars of our morning show, the Barflies Tailgate Show. Paulie says, laugh out loud. No way. Not even hypothetical should you bring up that point. What is this? M. Reardon. Hell no. Steven Zimmerman says that you have a point, but I should punch you anyways just for fun.
Again, I'd punch myself for even thinking about it because, I don't know what I was thinking about. I'm just saying, like, some guy who would have the poise and know the offense and go through his progression would actually get us through this game. Not that he's better than, that Daniels is better than Trubisky or anything like that. I was just kind of thinking, like, at this point, because you just saw the look in his eyes in terms of when he was dropping back and he was like 1, 2, boom, he was gone. He was running away, trying to get away from the pocket. I'm like, man, you gotta stay there. You gotta go through your progression, go through your read. It's not like there was a guy, on top of them or he was running away from a sack. He was freaking out. He was running. He was dropping his eyes, not looking downfield, and taking it off. So that was what got my attention, got me a little bit concerned in terms of, is this stage too big for him at this moment? We'll see. We'll see how he bounces back from this game. This is a big learning experience, like you said. Tomorrow, sitting down and watching that film with his coaches and his teammates, what's he gonna take from that? Is he gonna bounce back from that? Next week against Seattle. This would have been a huge momentum, builder in terms of getting them off to a good start on the season. But, we'll see how the team bounces back next week.
Danny, Jordan Howard finishes his stat line with 15 carries, 82 yards, an average of 5.5 yards per carry.
Yep.
Do the Chicago Bears win this game if Jordan Howard gets 25 carries?
I think so. I think so.
I think so too.
I think so. And key stat, Jordan Howard, 3 passes thrown, 3 catches. And he looked smooth, looked nice.
Yes, and the hands look really nice, yes.
Right. So that's an improvement there too. So you can see, you know, those rumors of, he was working after practice, with the jugs machine and working on catching. And so far today, he looked, pretty good catching the ball. So yeah, to answer your question, I believe that 3rd and 1, I'm not saying he's going to guarantee getting it, but I mean, the way he was running, the way I said, there's a couple times earlier in the game, I said, hey, halfback dive, run up, the butts of Massey and Long, because, they were moving guys to the point of contact. Give the ball to Howard and let him go up there and get that 1 yard, 2 yards, Stop getting cute with these, quick hitters and screens and stuff like that. And like I said, the Packers, they caught on to that early on after the first quarter, and they were just ready to jump those routes, those passes. So, I think if he got 20, 25 carries, I think, a couple first downs here and there, I think he could have extended the drive. Again, we're talking about all these negatives with the Bears in the second half, yet, however, they still had the chance to seal the game if Kyle Fuller gets that interception. And they played a crappy second half, and they still would have beat the Packers, a team a lot of people are projecting to win this division, possibly even go to the Super Bowl. So that to me is positive. You still look at it and say, all right, this is a learning experience. Yeah, it sucks, but how they bounce back from this, do they become stronger? Do they become better? Like I said, defensively, I have no worries about them. Offensively, how do they progress? How do they get better? I expect them, especially Trubisky, to be much better, second half of the season than he is, starting these, first 3 or 4 games.
I'm laughing because Chris Armstrong just wrote the full word, effing Fuller, as you were saying that about the Bears would have won this game if he would have held on to that pass. It's so disappointing. I need a shower. I need a massage. I need the sun to rise in the morning. I'm just so upset about this loss. I'm tired of losing to the Packers like this. Tired of it. Tired of that smug Aaron Rodgers look. Oh my God.
And what's even worse is they don't play until Monday night. So we got a whole week of this, lingering in this bad loss. But it's like I said, there's some encouraging signs coming out of this game. There's some concerns definitely coming out of this game. But let's see how this team progresses. So I think they're the 10th youngest team in the NFL, if I'm correct there. So there's definitely going to be some tough losses, some learning experiences here that we're going to have to endure with them. But again, they played a great first half. Second half they played like crap, but yet they still had a chance to win the game.
We will be back here tomorrow night. Draft Dr. Phil, he took this loss really bad. So hopefully by the time he gets back on the air here in about 22 hours or so, 21 hours, he will not have any sharp things in his hand.
I think Phil is already practicing his opening statement for tomorrow. I mean, he was fired up. He was really fired up.
Yep, he really was, and so I know how much he takes these losses, and so I wherever you are, Phil, right now, if you're listening to this, whether it's live here on mixlr.com or in the morning in the podcast edition, I hope you're okay, and we are anxious to hear you on Bears Hour Live with Draft Dr. Phil Monday, 9 p.m. Central here on MixLR, and the Bears Girl will be here too to help soothe the Draft Dr. Phil from what ails him. I know she's upset too. So
I think everyone's pretty much upset. Hey, Michael Byrne had a catch for 6 yards,
and he had actually blocked well today. I thought he did, and on the 2 or 3 blocking plays I saw. So
I remember him on the lead block with Jordan Howard. He had was it Tariq Cohen in the first half? He had a pretty decent block, but
yes.
But I don't remember him doing much of else.
I guess I multiplied it by 3 times. That was the one play I saw that he did a nice job on blocking. All right, gang.
We should probably break that. We should probably break that play down. So.
We'll do it tomorrow. We'll crash Bears Are Alive and we'll break that down. I am done for tonight. I am so upset. I want to wash my sorrows away with a shower and maybe another beer or 2. Listen, all of you people who stopped by the chat room, we had almost 100 at one point. Thank you all for stopping by. And those of you listening on the podcast edition, thank you for dealing with my dejection here, and I appreciate you, Danny. You analyzed the thing like a true scout, and you've given us hope that this team can bounce back. But clearly, you're on board with me in that there are some issues with Mitch Trubisky that need to be ironed out. So hopefully that will happen really soon. And we'll be back here next Monday, you and I, 15, 20 minutes after that Monday night game. And hopefully we'll be talking about a victory and Mitch Trubisky correcting those mistakes and Matt Nagy having a better game plan. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. Tough loss. Definitely not the way you want to start the season, but definitely some encouraging signs. A young developing team. Had the Packers there and could have just couldn't put them away. You allowed one of the better quarterbacks in the league to come back and beat you, and you just got to learn from your mistakes, like you said. Watch the film and get better. And then I'm still encouraged. Of course I would love to have the victory, but I also don't think it's a devastating season ending kind of a loss. So hopefully next week they come back, bounce back at home versus the Seahawks, and we're talking about a 1-1 team and Coach Matt Nagy's first NFL head coaching victory.
That's what I say. Remember, if you drink, please do not drive, and always bear down. Again, don't forget, Bears Are Alive on Monday night right here on MixLR, and Bears 100 Proof on your podcast stream Wednesday morning. Buffon 55 Wednesday night here on MixLR. Fantasy Football Goon will hit your podcast stream Thursday, and then Mike North, the Mike North Advantage, Friday 9 a.m. right here on MixLR. Bye-bye.